So we spent a lot of time
Can you hear
talking
me
about
now?
our ticket.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
you're there.
I'm here.
Hi, everyone. I am going to go ahead and just get started. And we'll wait for Brian and the guys at Panic Point to hopefully join us back in a minute or two. But I'll just kind of give a bit of a background. We are Ticket Sign Up. We're an event technology company. We have been providing free event technology to events since 2010. And this year, we kind of positioned our ticketing product to solve a lot of problems for multi-day timed entry events. And one of the groups that we found, one of the markets that we found where we had some initial success was with haunts. So haunts are, they typically last over a period of a couple of weeks. They often have different types of tickets for sale, as well as different dates and times when people can come to the event. And so we wanted to kind of talk through the experience that the Haunted Forest at Panic Point has had using Ticket Sign Up and get some more of their feedback about their event. Brian, do you want to give a little bit of background about Panic Point?
Sure. So I met Panic Point at the Halloween attraction show. So some of you who are attending this may go to that every single year. That was my first year. Actually met Panic Point in the airport in the St. Louis airport. Got to chat with them a little bit about their haunt, learn a little bit more about some of their challenges and needs and things like that. Actually went down to one of their kind of fans nights in their location in Youngsville, North Carolina. Went with a family friend named Dame Gustafson, who he's been helping with haunts for a long time. Got to go down there and see their facility and see how they set things up, and really kind of helped me as well as them connect and understand what challenges that they have, which is one of the big challenges that they have is they're always trying to optimize their attendees. So what I mean by that is there's a lot of peaking demand, meaning like Saturday nights are really, really busy. And so how can they shift people from Saturday night to Friday night or Saturday night to Sunday night? And so they do that in a variety of different ways. And they kind of taught me some of the interesting things that they do in terms of, they'll have like an adult night. So that drives some of the adults who might be interested in coming out for a Saturday night to Sunday night. So it's been definitely a learning process of working with them this year, them sharing a lot of the information that they have to help me learn a little bit more about their business.
Thanks. Yeah, so kind of just a little bit of background about Panic Point from working with them. They've been operating since 2011, and they've kind of grown a bit by bit each year, and are now out at about 30,000 attendees. So just a little bit of background about the attendee experience. So they have they're on some farmland that they leased in Youngsville, North Carolina, and you check in at the ticket booth, and unlike some haunts where you go through like a single attraction like a haunted house, theirs is broken up. So it's a little bit more like a theme park style where attendees can choose the order of the events that they want to go through, the attractions that they want to go through, and there are 5 main attractions. So attendees will typically take about an hour and a half to go through all of the different attractions. It's a mix of different attractions where you are actually like walking through. So the Haunted Forest is like a trail walk in the forest, and there's about 13 different scenes that you'll go through. And the hayride is like an actual hayride, so it's kind of this mix of different activities, attractions that you are going through. Brian, do you have a little bit that you want to say about the staff at Panic Point?
Yeah, so the Panic Point team is pretty large. I think they have about 150 hunters who are working throughout the season. And it's a pretty dedicated group of people who they got a picture of them here. And one of the things that they do that I really love that they do to reward their staff who are pretty passionate about what they do is they offer their staff like coupon codes. So when you offer your staff coupon codes, their staff then have a unique link, and they're sharing that link out with friends and family to try to encourage them to come out to Panic Point. So this does several different things. One, they reward the haunter who's out promoting this. If people register with their link, they get kind of like an end of season bonus type thing. And then the other thing is that the person clicking on the link is getting a small discount, so it kind of encourages them to pick that link. Because as you can imagine, especially in 2022 and 2021 and 2020, it was difficult to get staff. So this is an important staff recruiting mechanism as well as staff retention, because pretty much everybody knows at least a few people who might be interested in coming to a haunt in Halloween. And this is just encouraging them to, continually share what they do throughout the season, not just one night or not one particular day.
I know that you mentioned like how you met Panic Point, but what were kind of some of the reasons that your conversation deepened to moving forward with ticket sign up?
So when our conversation started, I would say the best way to say it is that they weren't looking for a ticketing platform. They're really good at what they do. So they are looking to optimize. And so a lot of the discussion came around what can we do to help them optimize their organization. So we really spent a lot of times around some very specific topics that, this year really, unfortunately, was helpful. This year we had a hurricane that came through during haunting season, and that led to, unfortunately, kind of a cancellation of a night. So we spent a lot of time talking about our ticket.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you're there.
I'm here.
Well, now I don't have to talk in the third person anymore. So this is much better. I'd rather talk in the first person.
So you guys are event professionals, unlike us, clearly.
Well, this is just Jeff. I don't know if Brian's still trying to get in or not, but I'm one of the owners.
Yeah.
Great.
So Jeff, maybe you could talk a little bit about. We went over in very light detail. Maybe you could just give us the history of Panic Point.
Well, Panic Point started. Brian and I we are brother-in-laws, and we also are business partners, and we were doing real estate investing. And we started out in Arizona, but we moved back here in North Carolina in 2006, and things were going great. And then 2008 happened, and things kind of fell apart. And the real estate investing business became really kind of tough because banks weren't doing anything. So I had some friends of mine up in Maryland that I grew up with who had been doing a haunted forest since, I think their first year was 93. And so I've always found it interesting how they did it, and kind of kicked around the idea of doing it. So this kind of spurred the idea of doing it. So we went to some local haunts around here, saw what the market was like, and then we went up to my friend's place up in just outside of DC, and it was their busiest night, and they did like 5,000 or 6,000 people, and it was just like, okay, we got to give it a try. And so we spent 2010 working on developing our ideas and our processes, and marketing was obviously the big thing we had to think about. And then we opened in 2011, and the rest is history.
Can you talk a little bit about kind of how you were able to grow the haunt? Because I imagine when you kind of first launched it, you didn't have a brand, you didn't have like an established set of attendees that were coming year after year. So can you kind of talk about like how that went?
Sure. One of our good friends was in the pest control industry and was competing against some of the big boys in pest control, and had tried all these different marketing things, but then he became just really into learning more and more about SEO marketing. And I guess SEO was really not a household name back in 2010. I'm sure it was, but it hadn't filtered down to the haunt industry, I don't think. And so he was instrumental in us getting ourselves, I think by the time we opened and never having been a haunt before, I think we were the second in organic searches for a lot of the key phrases in Raleigh and North Carolina for haunted houses. And that was huge. And then I think by the season's end, I think we were number one. And so he works diligently with us now and continues to handle all of our SEO, and that's the biggest way we grew. That's without question, that was the biggest way we made Panic Point a brand name.
And Jeff, so some haunts kind of focus on, they have different focus. So some of it's like really trying to scare people. Like, where would you kind of say that what part of the market are you focused on?
Well, we do ours a little differently. We have a midway area, and that's actually probably more of a centric area than a lot of other places. We don't have one main attraction that people will have a long queue line for. We have 5 different main attractions, and so that it's kind of in theory like an amusement park motif where you come off of one attraction, you come out of one attraction and you're all excited, okay, where am I going to go next? It's kind of like when you get off a roller coaster, where am I going to go next? What roller coaster am I going to go next? So, and in the meantime, we have a midway that it's not a scary midway. We have some haunters in there, but it's kind of we call it kind of like a decompression area where, people can come out, they can go to concessions, they can play a carnival games, try and win a t-shirt, and spend time just hanging out by the bonfires. And we have people that they may take an hour and a half to go through all the attractions, but they end up staying for 2.5, 3 hours just because they like hanging out at our place. So it's a little different in that sense, but so we're really fun. People love us. They have a great time when they're there. And the scare factor, I mean, you're always trying to scare and make changes and do things to continue to try and up your game and on that point of the haunt. The main thing I think that separates us from everybody else is our midway area and how people love just being in the midway area.
And from firsthand experience, I went through the Haunted Forest. That was the only one I made it through. But I started the night with about 4 jackets on, and I finished that, and I was in a t-shirt because I was sweating so much. I was so scared.
Yeah, well, it is fun. People have a good time, and it is something that has just continued to grow. And we're really lucky, and we've had a lot of good people working for us, and have done a lot of things that help put Panic Point on the map, and then continue to provide a good product. So Brian and I are really, really lucky in that regard.
Yeah. So headed into this year's haunt season, what were some of your goals to achieve this year? And that could be like financial or otherwise.
Sure. So we do close to 30,000 people for all of our events during the course of the year. This year will probably be over 30,000. So improving on the number of patrons is obviously something we're really concerned about, and we try and beat the previous year each year. The only year we haven't done that yet was the COVID year, but that's because we had to put restrictions on things and limit the number of people coming. Revenue-wise, one of my big focuses is the revenue per patron. I focus on that quite a bit. We do not just open the gates and have 4,000 people come in. We do have sellouts. One of the main reasons why we do that is we want to make sure that the people have a good experience, that they're not waiting in hour-plus lines for each attraction, and it generates demand. And it works for us. So those are the two metrics that I really focus on, are, you know, the number of patrons, how we can service them and make them have a good experience while still getting as many as we can in. And then also, you know, our revenue per patron, you know, how do we do that and make it a fair price and while still, you know, trying to maintain a level of profitability.
Yeah, and Jeff, does that include the, that's not just the ticket when you're looking at that revenue per patron, you're looking
No.
at food, sideshow,
Mhm.
in the game, stuff like that too, right?
Right. Yeah, we have 3 other sources of revenue once you enter the venue. The one is obviously concessions, and that's quite big. I mean, we don't have elaborate food. We have, you know, basic carnival style food, and that does really well for us. Then we have a Carney Crypt. It's an additional experience. It's $5 for like a 4D experience. And then we sell T-shirts and sweatshirts. We found this year, I mean, we always learn something new. This year we had you know, college style gray, light gray, you know, college style crew neck sweatshirts, and we couldn't keep them on the shelves. I mean, everybody and their mother was trying to buy those things, and so we would get new ones in each week, and they'd be sold out within a night or two. And then we also have carnival games, and the carnival games you know, we don't give away some places give away like Halloween, you know, kind of style prizes and whatnot. We give away a T-shirt. You get a Panic Point T-shirt, and you go to the local high schools, and those T-shirts are everywhere. So it's marketing that we use for that. So, but those are other sources of revenue.
No, I think what you're like the idea of measuring it on a per patron basis and then loading in all those other things gives you a more complete view. Because I do think like one of the things that you told me early on is that you do think of it as a theme park. And I totally agree when you say decompression, because someone just went through and, like, you know, hopefully with some friends, they went through one of the attractions. They need some time. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. Sometimes people want to hang for like a half an hour and they want to go do something else, whether that's eat some food. And that's where your VIP comes in. Like they can go into the tent and have some food and drinks and stuff, or play some of the games before they go to the next attraction.
Yeah, and it really does work. I mean, I know that most of the main model is you go through your attraction, then you come out and you're done. But you know, every time I go to one of those places, and they're fine, they're great, they do a great job. But you come out and it's like, okay, it's over. Well, and I'm leaving on their terms, whereas, you know, people, you know, they kind of leave on their own terms when they're at our place. I mean, you know, we do have a closing time, obviously, but you know, we're not, and it's not like, okay, you know, you come out of the attraction and you're pointed toward the parking lot for you to go. So it just adds a little bit
This
of
is Brian. You guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I'm in. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, this may be a good time to talk a little bit. I don't think we did justice to talk about your staff. I mean, you guys have a pretty large staff, and, you know, talk about like recruiting. And I talked a little bit about, you know, how I really like that you guys offer the referral or the coupon codes for your staff to be able to share with their friends and family. And if you wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, I've been talking, Brian, so I don't know if you want to go with it or you want me to tell them about it, but we employ about, a full staff is about 130 to 140 people a night. 90 to 100 actors, 40 or so, 45 support staff. Finding them is, you know, Brian does all the honor, so I let him talk about it. I handle the support staff, and you know, we don't have to have, it's mostly ticket taking and, you know, and you know, concessions and things like that. The program that we do is we came up with the idea of, you know, for our staff to make some extra money is, you know, look, you all each have your own promo code. Go out and promote the promo code. You know, we only thing we don't let them do is, you know, do it on our promotional post. They can't like go in the chat and say, here, use my promo code. But and get your friends to buy it. And they get a 10% commission of all of the tickets that they sell. And we do also fundraising for other, local charity places. We give them the same thing. We give them a promo code. They go out, and then we give them a 15% kicker on tickets that they have sold. So Brian's hiring is more in depth because he has to interview the actors and everything. So I'll let him tell you about that.
Yeah, I would say, we always have enough actors, and training them and getting them to do everything that they need to do is probably one of our bigger challenges. It's just, there's so many people in such a short period of time. We probably had about half adults 18 and older, and then half younger haunters this year, including some of our volunteer haunters, which also present their own challenges as far as like having them haunt alongside someone else their age and not being alone with an adult. But what we've had happen over the years is sometimes we get these 14, 15-year-old kids that come in and they turn into just absolute all-stars, and they stay with us for years and years. And it's good to get them early because, once people go to college or get a job, sometimes they move away or they're restricted from what they can do. And so they can't stick around. So the people that stick around every single year, that number is relatively small. So it's just a matter of getting everyone on board and kind of showing them the vision of what we want to do and how we want to do it, and have them buy into that. And our recruiting is basically a website. Just it's on the website. We'll do a couple of posts and then referrals from the people that already work there. But as with many haunts, it's one of the challenges that we face is getting the staff can always be better. Let me just put it that way.
So we kind of talked about this a little bit when Jeff was telling us about how you kind of launched Panic Point and started to grow the brand. It seems like a lot of your focus is on SEO and just making sure that people can find your event when they're online. Can you talk a little bit about what you found to be like the most cost-effective and high return marketing strategies for growing Panic Point?
Yeah, digital, right? That's my line is that we're a digital marketing company that owns a haunted house. And when it comes to, and that's what people are, right? So Brian and I were speaking about this earlier. Some of these directories that we are essentially forced to participate in are really just do it. It's not very palatable, but we do it to get the clicks. But we want to beat those guys to search, so we don't have to pay to play. AdWords is a big part of our strategy and does well for us, especially as we build early in the season. We feel like that snowball effect where we get more people early leads to better attendance later on. And we were reluctant when Brian brought up the Run Sign Up referral program. I was, first answer was, I don't know, that sounds interesting, but we got to refund people money, and how does that work? And how many refunds are we going to be offering? And we went ahead and did it, and we put a link in there. You guys have the link in the confirmation email. We didn't promote it much outside of that. But doing a little math earlier, it looks like we got over $50 in revenue from every dollar we refunded to a patron, which is a pretty good number. And even if some of those people were going to come anyway, and it was just, hey, let's get a little refund here. It's just another form of a discount, essentially, when you sell 5 tickets. So not only are we going to do the referral program again next season, but the plan is to offer some additional rewards potentially to encourage those people to share those referral codes even more. So that just ties in with what we're doing with our haunters, what we're doing with the charities, the 501c3s that we partner with, and just getting as many people as possible to share and have an incentive to do that. And then, hopefully that brings attendance up just, a little bit more. It's like just tweak that dial a little bit here and there and drive demand in the most cost-effective way possible.
So you kind of mentioned the referral rewards and the automated refunds. It's just another form of offering a discount. Could you talk a little bit more about how you go about pricing your tickets and how you decide to offer discounts?
Well, we have 3 pricing levels that we do. And this is kind of just been, trial and error over the course of the 12 years we've been open. We know on Saturdays in October, people are going to come. There's demand there. So obviously, and other haunts know this as well as we do. I mean, that's your premium price. We make our years are made when we get people to come on the off nights. And so we figured that Fridays and Saturday nights, the prices are relatively close. It's $39 on most Fridays and $45 on Saturdays, but Sundays they're $30. And especially now with the way inflation has gone up, that's a significant difference. And we pretty much sold out almost every Sunday night we opened this year, and pretty early too, because it's a bargain for people, and people like it. And we were really successful in doing that. And again, we sold out our Saturday nights because people just want to come on Saturdays in October. The discounts, we do a military discount that's consistent through the whole year. We do deeper discounts in the beginning of the year to start generating interest. The earlier we get a sellout posted, the better it is for us, because people feel like they have to be at Panic Point. And so we are aggressive in our pricing and our discounts, in September and early October, and that's when people get the best deals. And then we just let it play out from there.
Talking about the tickets a little bit, could you talk a little bit about your VIP tickets?
Brian, you want to take it? You want me to take it?
Yeah, I can answer it. So the VIP tickets, we had a bad experience a number of years ago when we just, you put the VIP tickets out for sale, and they weren't priced properly, and so many people bought them that it ended up not being a VIP experience. And there's nothing that makes someone more angry than buying a VIP ticket and then waiting, virtually the same amount of time as the general admission patrons. So we limit the VIPs now to the goal is 10, 12%, can go up a little bit from there. So we do sell them on site for people who check out the long lines and don't want to wait. And those VIP tickets are actually different. They're priced lower on the lower nights and higher on the higher nights. So you only add $20 to your VIP on a $30 night, but you add $30 to it on a $45 night, becomes a $75 ticket. And then that pricing has worked out very well for us as well, because the VIPs end up selling out also, or getting close to it. Sometimes the last tickets we have available are just the VIPs. So people who are really desperate to come, can you just give me 2 more tickets? And hey, there's only VIPs left. And that's worked out well for us. So that pricing structure, the whole pricing structure from top to bottom that we put together this year based on what we anticipated demand would be, worked out very well. And I don't know that multiple computers and algorithms could have nailed it better as far as that goes. And of course, you want to maximize revenue for, as Jeff said, that revenue per patron is a big deal, especially when you're selling out, when you don't have inventory to sell beyond a certain point. We're not a widget company. We can't just make more, and the demand, we have to meet demand pricing structure wise, so that we sell exactly the number of tickets on any given night that we have available. And the VIPs helped us to do that as well.
Yeah, one thing that I think you guys are mixing science and art and the direction of the wind on is how you declare a sellout, and how do you kind of manage that process, because I think you're very thoughtful about trying to make sure that there's not too many people there, and that there is a kind of a flow, and people have to wait some, but it's not unreasonable. And that's definitely something other haunts have shared they struggle with. And how did you figure that out? It seems impossible.
Trial and error. 12 years of trial and error, I think. But and that's a conversation that we have a lot. It's like sometimes we look at sales, and we're getting ready to sell out, and how many more can we do? How much later can we stay open? And that's a balance between keeping the customers happy and not having employees that that can't come in the next day because it was too much for them. So it's very delicate, and sometimes we land on different sides of that as we discuss it. But we end up we always end up in a good place, and I think where we ended up this year was we intend to kind of keep it, especially if we're going to see any type of economic impact in 2023, negative economic impact, to keep it that way, and then reserve price changes or price hikes for future years.
So obviously how many people are coming in. Do you guys have a rough estimate of, how many people are leaving on like a per hour, per half hour basis that helps you come up with those numbers?
Leaving, I don't think so, but going through the attractions we do, and then our parking lot tells us, and Jeff can speak to this a little bit because he's in charge of the parking lot and in charge of, when we close every night to make sure that, the people can get through. So I'll leave that to him.
Well, the way we do our pricing, this is actually because, our patron flow is become pretty tricky. We have a limited size parking lot, so we have to make sure that we manage and massage that the best way we can. So we found that we can take a certain number of people in, and we over the course of the last couple of years, we've realized that usually about 9 o'clock is when the people that had the early tickets, they've been there for 2 hours, they start heading for the exits. So we actually do it where we get a full capacity into the park by an hour and a half. And then we have a lull. We actually limit the number of tickets coming in for about a half hour, and then we slowly build back up. And again, this is usually just on Saturdays when we're staying open late. And we start building the park attendance back up after usually about 9 o'clock is when we start bringing the cars in on a regular basis, and it helps. We our max is about 3,000, and we did 3,000, and the parking lot, I always said I was joking that night, the parking lot held, and so that little trick of the trade, you just kind of learn how to do things, and so we know our parking lot, what it can hold, and how we did it, and it worked fine. And so that's kind of how we base it on. So you just kind of learn the trends of what everybody's doing. At the end of the night, it's people, we learned early that we have to announce early when lines are closing, because people will, again, stay in our midway. And then it's like, okay, lines are closing in 15 minutes. Like, wait a second, I haven't done everything. And they've been in the midway talking to our taking pictures with our characters, playing games, whatever it is. So we give them plenty of announcement that, hey, look, we're closing in half hour, 45 minutes, and you need to get in line and do all your attractions. Otherwise, you're going to miss out.
I think a lot of people would pay for a spreadsheet for that. So,
well, my guess is that it's probably different for everybody. Again, for us, it's a unique situation because of the midway, because people stay there longer. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword. People love it and they have a great time. They hang out there, and that's why everyone says, "Oh, I had a blast, I had a blast, I had a blast." But then when you're trying to kind of push, crowd through, or trying to, make sure you have enough parking spaces, or getting people out at the end of the day, they're wanting to hang in the circle. So it's kind of that balance that we have to really massage and make sure that everyone's having a good time, and we're not just kicking them to the curb, if we don't ever do that.
Oh, sorry, that's a dog. One of the things that was beneficial this year was our parking has always been free, and we thought about charging for it. Most of our competitors do, but because that is actually a big benefit, and it's something that kind of softens the blow. Sometimes when people buy their tickets and pay a lot of money for them and pay that service fee, and then we put it in the confirmation this year, free parking. Even though no one gets charged for parking, but we thought that was enough of a benefit to the customers that we would add it there. It also cuts back on the questions, because when they see that confirmation, look at what they paid, they're like, oh, parking's free. And it always has been, and it may always be for us, just because we'll get them. They'll spend their dollars once they bought their tickets, and they'll come in and spend their dollars on carnival games and on concessions.
Talking a little bit about, like, this year, you and many other haunts on the East Coast were affected by the hurricane. So obviously that kind of, caused some scheduling changes. So if you have to partially cancel a night or fully cancel a night, maybe you could talk a little bit about kind of what you're doing when obviously you're very weather aware. So how are you communicating that to customers?
Well, I can
That
tell
went
you
really
what,
well for us this year. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
Go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
I was saying that went very well for us this year. In previous years, we did offer credits to people who had been, when a weather night comes in. But the run sign-up system was extremely beneficial, because Hurricane Ian closed us on the 30th of September. So once we decided we're closed, and we knew, because it rained 4.5 inches that day, we knew pretty early. And so I think it was around 2 o'clock, we called it. When normally we'd wait until, an hour or two before we open to officially cancel the night. But at that moment, we sent an email out to everyone who had a ticket, allowing them to switch to a different night. And because of the settings that Run Sign Up has, we were able to remove the setting that said pay the difference between this and another night. And we gave them all 48 hours to transfer that ticket, which was a low cost night, right? That Friday, that was a $30 night. And we said, you got 48 hours to switch to any night that you want this season. And a lot of them did, and a lot of them didn't. But after that, they paid the upcharge, and they all did it gladly, because they had been given the opportunity, and they used the self-serve transfer, and it went amazing. I think 99% of people who use a self-serve transfer don't have a question. We get calls all the time that say, hey, I want to switch my ticket. And we say, hey, you got the self-serve option. Just click on the manage tickets button and you're good to go. And even the most challenged people technologically, there's very few. Every now and then a grandma can't do it, and we got to help her through it. But right now, we finished the season, and 15 of the tickets from September 30th remain untransferred. That's all. Everybody else on their own changed their ticket, either free or paid the difference when they made that change later in the season. Very, very seamless and easy, especially for us. Saved us. If that had happened last year, we'd have been, 10 hours of customer service work, talking to people, trying to help them out, even though we gave them the credit. It took a lot off our plate.
So Jeff, maybe since you're kind of managing the logistics operations check-in part, could you talk a little bit about, the change to how you were doing check-in this year, and hopefully it was a positive change?
That was a great change. The app is really good. I mean, there are a couple of things that we're going to talk to you guys in the off season that we think might help customize things, but nothing major. But the app is great. The check-in was way more streamlined than it has been. Especially, the best thing about it is if someone shows up at the window and they don't have their confirmation, before we had to look it up on a computer. You all have the ability in that app just to type in their name, and the tickets are right there, and they can check them in that way. That was the best change for us. The process became so streamlined that we probably are going to be able to do the whole check-in process as one less person. So it might end up saving us some money. We don't know yet. We're gonna look at it and talk to the people that were in the ticket booth and what they thought about it. But it looks like it might be able to happen that way. But the check-in is really a great way to streamline people checking in. We were checking in. One night we did 600 people in a half an hour. So that's great for us.
So you guys push online ticket sales pretty heavily, but you're obviously still going to get people that walk up without tickets. Can you talk a little bit about how you handle on-site ticket sales, especially in relation to your ticket inventory that you have?
Okay, we do, it's posted that everyone has to buy tickets on sale, online, excuse me. So we don't actually actively say that you can buy tickets at the door, and we sold out 9 of our 15 nights that we were open, and we say the way you can reserve your spot is to buy tickets online. So we don't get a ton of walk-ups. I would say we probably get 5% of our sales are walk-ups, and those are handled. Those are fine. I mean, we charge a premium for taxes and fees when they come, so it's more than what's online. But we don't actively promote it, and it's more of like, okay, can this person come in? And then as we get, usually the people that are buying cash tickets, for the most part, a lot of them come at the end of the night because they haven't seen it. And so our parking lot people, they tell, if we've sold out, we say, look, you have to have a confirmation, show us confirmation for you to be able to get down to the gate. But we don't get everybody. And when they come down there, we tell them, say, look, we're sold out and you're gonna have a hard time doing everything. So they might buy like 3 attractions, at 4 attractions, we work a deal with them. But it's really, we take all the people that walk up for the most part, but we promote so hard that you have to buy tickets online, that we're sold out, that it's literally 95% of the people buy online.
We're getting close to the end of the hour, so I'm gonna just ask if anybody would like to submit any questions. Go ahead and shoot them in. We'll take a look at them. The other kind of questions we have are, you hinted at this a little bit, is do you have any goals for next year at your haunt or long term that you're looking ahead to?
Brian, you want to take that?
I'd say the number one goal is growth. We want to service as many people as we possibly can, but in saying that, it's got to be a unique, a fun, and a scary experience for those patrons. So tweaking the dial, that's kind of what we try and do, especially in the off season, as we think about how the business works and how it's going to work the next year, is turn the dial a little bit here, turn the dial a little bit there, and that can have a very big impact on what we do. So we have a ton of data at our disposal, and there's probably some that we're missing. But our big challenge is to find actionable data that's going to have the biggest impact on revenue, and that's really the goal, is to continue to provide a great experience and make that a better experience every year, while having our pricing and our patron flow and all of those things structured in a way that will continue to allow us to grow, despite the fact that we cannot just service as many people as want to come. That's the long-term goal.
So the next question was, well, it's 2 questions. So what was your favorite ticket sign-up feature, and what's your number one wish list request?
You go first, Jeff.
My favorite sign-up feature, well, there's 2. I have 2 for this. The transfer of tickets for the patrons, having the patrons do it, that's probably 1, and 1A was the check-in app. Those 2 things were definite benefits for us. The one thing that I would want, and again, this is something that we'll probably talk to you in the off season, is the ability to text patrons, text notices. I mean, we have, especially on nights where we have to close early, we had to close, it wasn't the hurricane, but we had another night we had to close early, and kind of, we got most everybody through, but to be able to send a text saying that we might be doing, closing at this time, that's something that is a benefit to us. I know we have email, but in this day and age, people check text way more than they check email.
I would echo that. Those two items. I would add one of the things that I really appreciate is the attention to speed and reliability that Run Sign Up has, and the customer service. As we've been approached year after year, this ticketing company or that ticketing company would call us and say, hey, we can do better for you. We can sell more tickets. We can do this, we can do that. And we start asking questions, and you'd get 2, 3, I don't know, 5, 6 questions in, and then there'd be the big disqualifier where it's like, no, there's no chance we're going to use you guys. And this is the reason why. If this stays the same, whether it's pricing or the service, or there were a number of aspects, because our relationship at the time was a very sticky one with our vendor, and I didn't know that we'd ever change. And when it came to Run Sign Up, as we started talking with Brian and asking those questions, I kept waiting for the disqualifying moment where it was like, oh, that's a non-starter, we can't use you guys. And it just never happened. And we slowly came to the realization that we were going to do something that we didn't really want to do, and that was divorce our current ticketing partner. So all of those things combined have, and you delivered on every promise. As far as things that we want in the future, or that we would have on the wish list, one is reports, the same thing you have for the runs, and potentially a little bit more of an intuitive interface for people like us, because we're using a system that was designed for something else, essentially, to do haunted houses. So that's my input.
We got a note in here, we will do text by next year. So wish will be granted.
Good. Call them out in the webinar, and they perform, and they produce. That's fabulous.
So
Is
maybe
is that Bob?
I think so. So to wrap this up, it's always good to wrap it up on something fun. Is there anything that happened at the haunt this year that would be a good fun story to wrap it up?
Ooh, fun. I have a first that happened, but it wasn't a fun one. We had an accident right in front of we had to pivot on. We had one of our busiest Saturdays. We had an accident right in front of our driveway. I mean, so it literally, no one was hurt. So I guess that's a good thing. But the state police, we have a one-way, two-lane road going where we go into the driveway, and they blocked it off. So we were trying to figure out what we did. So we actually we actually remade our parking lot in a matter of about 10, 15 minutes, and took down some ropes and had people driving over, the drainage ditches, and where it was, shallow, and that it wouldn't bottom out cars. And we only fell about 15 minutes behind schedule. So that was good, but that was a unique experience. We never had that happen before. It wasn't fun, but it was, it was interesting and unique, that's for sure.
Well,
for me, it was my favorite moments. This is Brian. My favorite moments are they all center around working in the attractions with the actors that we have. And so since I'm responsible for hiring and training them, I'm responsible for their performance as well. And every single one of us is addicted to those responses you get when like the perfect scare happens. So one moment was you get a great scare, and I hear a voice, coming from the darkness, and it's a woman, and she's like, Jim, I think I peed my pants. Oh, yeah. So, and those are for haunters, those are the moments where you take a lot of pride, and it gives you a lot of energy. And moments like that happen, and the things that people say are the biggest reward.
Well, I have my favorite one from this season was when you called about one of your haunters who I think drove over 400 ticket sales for you, and I was trying to figure out if it was legitimate or not, and it turns out they legitimately sold over 400 tickets through their referral link, which is unbelievable. So
Yeah, it was actually
There's a
picked
little
up by
backstory to that one too.
a coupon aggregator picked it up.
Yeah, there's a little,
which was
yeah, that one, after a little more research, we found what happened on that.
gotcha.
And I'll say my favorite was going through your dollhouse attraction with Brian's daughter, and her telling me that they were her childhood toys that were cut up and massacred on the walls of the dollhouse.
What you do? What you do?
traumatizing for her.
It was great.
Barney's got big burn marks all over his belly and his legs cut off.
Well, thanks guys for joining us. Sorry for the technical difficulties in coordinating this, but it was great to hear more from you and learn about how you manage a really large haunt and your goals for it. Thanks again for joining us, and thanks for giving us a lot of great feedback to improve our ticketing platform for more haunts.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
See ya.
Right. Bye-bye.